to my channel. My name is Esther and today we'll be starting a series called Sewing on a Budget. I haven't decided how many videos will be in the series. It's going to be a very mini series, so maybe 2 or 3 videos, but we'll see how many videos we'll end up having. Before I start, I'll just tell you what I'm wearing. This is the By Hand London Tamsin dress. I have it sew along and you can just watch it right here. Also, I'll insert a picture of the dress, the full length dress. Onto the sewing on a budget. I'm very big on being frugal. I love to shop for bargains. I love to get things at the lowest price possible. And when I started sewing, I realized that sewing is expensive. Yes, I said it. It's expensive. The first time I went into the fabric store to buy fabric, I think 1 meter of fabric was over £6. And I just thought the dresses I wear are usually, flowy dresses, sometimes maxi length dresses. So I usually buy between 4 to 5 meters, sometimes 6 meters. So I started calculating that if every time I wanted to make a dress, it cost me £6 a meter for fabric and I needed 5 meters. So that means every single time my dresses will cost £30, £40, and this is just fabric. We're not talking patterns, we're not talking notions, we're not talking about thread, zips, buttons, nothing else, just fabric. For me, I felt that was pricey. It's more expensive for me to make a garment than to go into the shop and buy it. So I had to look at the ways I could cut costs. If not, I won't be able to enjoy the hobby that I have. So I've been able to find 1 or 2 ways to be more frugal, to still enjoy my hobby without costing me the bank, and that's what I'll be sharing with you guys today. Let me just say that these are just my tips. They're things that have worked for me. You don't have to do them. The video is not going to be for everyone. Some people are in different financial positions and you might not need to cut costs, which is fair. But if you are interested in learning some ways in which you can save and still enjoy sewing, then just continue with me. Today we're going to be starting with my favorite things in sewing: patterns. So I'm going to split my video into 2. I'll talk about how to get patterns cheaper and then I'll talk about how to get free patterns. Just stick with me and we'll go through it. So talking about how to get patterns for cheap, my number 1 tip is Facebook groups. If you are not on Facebook groups, you are sleeping. I am telling you, you can get lots of cheap patterns on Facebook groups. There's a group called the Pattern Exchange Group on Facebook. I'll link it down below. People are selling off their patterns like no man's business, and you can get lots of patterns for a fraction of the cost. So I always check there for patterns. Of course, what happens is that you're not going to get the pattern you are looking for in the moment, but you can get lots of patterns for much cheaper than the real retail price. I'm able to get McCall's patterns for about £4, £4.50. And meanwhile, the full price is £10, I think, £10.50, I think it is. It's a very good bargain tool. You can just go on there. The Pattern Exchange group is amazing for patterns. There are a few other groups as well, and I can just link them down below for you to be able to see about getting patterns cheaper. Most people sell off their big 4 patterns, but sometimes you're able to get indie patterns as well. So I bought some patterns from Tilly and the Button from Facebook groups for a fraction of the price. So that's really amazing. So I would say that go on the Facebook groups and just be on there. There are a lot of them for different types of bargains you can get. But for me, the Pattern Exchange group is the best one for patterns. It's absolutely amazing and you can get patterns for really, really cheap. Tip number 2 would be charity shops. I love going into charity shops and finding sewing patterns. The charity shop close to me sell sewing patterns for 29 pence. It feels very painful because they don't know the worth of the patterns, but it's amazing when I get there. I can buy all these patterns. So thank you if you're the one that donates them to the charity shops. But I've been able to buy patterns for as low as 29 pence. Of course, depending on where you are, it might not be that cheap, but it will be cheaper than buying the pattern from the store. A lot of times the patterns are in perfect condition. It's just they sell them for pennies because maybe they don't know the worth or they don't think anyone is going to buy them. So I love going into the charity shop. Another thing is joining pattern companies' newsletters. So a lot of times when a company releases its patterns, they normally put up, their patterns for sale. So for instance, when By Hand London releases their patterns, they will put that new pattern on 20% off for a few days after release. Another example, I think Helen's Closet does something similar as well. But also, if you're on the newsletter, you're able to get a message anytime they will have a pattern sale. So sometimes companies are doing different types of sales, and if you're on their newsletter, you can get information about that discount. So looking out for pattern company sales is very important. You're able to get a bit of money off the pattern that you would ordinarily be buying. November is coming soon, and you guys know it's going to be Black Friday, it's going to be Cyber Monday. So a lot of pattern companies are on sale during those periods, so you can just keep a wish list of the things you want, and when there's such a sale, you can just go to town and buy. Also, the festive period might come up with some sales as well. So Christmas, Boxing Day sales, New Year Day sales. So just keep your eyes peeled for those sales, and you can keep yourself up to date through the company's newsletter or their social media pages. Another way you can save on sewing patterns is by joining some destash pages. So on Instagram, a number of people create their destash pages where they sell a fabric as well as patterns. I recently bought a pattern from a destash page for less than the price. So another thing I would say, even though it's neither here nor there, is that you could half and half with a friend. So both of you could buy 2 different patterns and both of you can just share both patterns. So you could trace each other's patterns off or share the patterns in whatever way works for you guys. So I think that that's a way to, stretch your budget as well if you go in with a friend. Another tip for being cheap with patterns is pattern hacking. You could stretch a pattern to the very limit of that pattern. As an example, the pattern I use for my basic bodice, so just my basic fitted bodice, is one pattern that I've used to make a lot of dresses. So I've used it to make maxi length dresses, I've used it to make a midi length dress, I've used that pattern to make a dress with bell sleeves, I've used that pattern to make a dress with short sleeves. Just playing around with the same pattern can really stretch that pattern. I always make sure that once I have a pattern, I make it as many times as possible. As an example, this Tamsin dress I've made this one as a dress and I've also made a top. I've made this one as a color block dress. I will probably make another one as a plain dress. I'm likely to keep this bodice on and change up the skirt. Keep this bodice and the skirt, change up the sleeves. Use this skirt piece on a different pattern. Use this sleeve piece on a different pattern. So just stretching patterns to the very limit that pattern has. Just playing around with the same pattern. You're saving money because the cost of the pattern per garment is much cheaper. Another one I would say is that only buy patterns that you are absolutely certain you are going to make. Now, this one is a case of do as I say, not as I do, because I am looking at my pattern stash now. It's just right in front of me, and I've probably made only maybe 20 patterns, yet I have close to 100 of them. I like buying patterns. I just love it. I like having different design features, but what ends up happening is that I don't like the process of fitting the bodice, making all the adjustments I need, and then twirling the garment, possibly readjusting, then making my actual garment. So in the end, I just end up recycling patterns. So I would use the same pattern over and over and over again. For me, I think on average, if a pattern works well for me, I make 5 garments. So if you think about that, really and truly, even though I'm buying new patterns, I'm not actually making use of them. So I would say to you that if you're trying to save on sewing patterns, only buy what you are convinced you're going to make use of, you're going to love, and also only buy what is unique. As an example, I have a few patterns that are the same basic bodice. Also, I have a few patterns that are princess seam bodices. There's nothing unique in them per se, just slightly different styles. And if I just spend a few moments pattern hacking, I'll be able to come up with the same type of garment. So I would say that really be critical about your shopping habits. Ask yourself, is this pattern unique? Is there anything that is similar in my stash? Can I use a pattern I already own to make a similar garment? In the end, you possibly can. Ask yourself those questions before you go about buying patterns. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in seeing more videos on tips for sewing, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Until next time. Bye!